Okay, Pat, you hinted prior to coming on the show that you were going to share with the guests, your top 3 lead sources. Can you tell us what they are?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one, for anybody on here that is doing real estate, the first one, you might shake your head at me, but believe it or not, one of our top lead sources right now is actually the MLS. And I know I say that because a lot of people, it's usually the first, people will say, well, the great deals are not on the MLS. Yeah. And, the MLS gets lots of flack. But there are deals on there. Now, it is a little bit more of like a needle in a haystack sort of situation, so you've got to make up for the smaller numbers, the less likelihood of getting a deal. You've got to make up for that with large numbers of offers that you're making. And so that's kind of what we do. But Phoenix is a big market. There's lots of properties to make offers on. And the MLS is an easy way to find some of those. So we're hitting the MLS pretty hard right now these days. We have always done a lot of direct mail, so that would be the second piece. And nothing too crazy, direct mail using yellow letters, and we can dive into some of the specifics and stuff. But nothing, I would say, super innovative, compared to like what you hear about at all the seminars that you go to and stuff. It's just doing a lot of it. And then the third source would definitely be referrals and I would say referrals / following up with people. So we're pretty good at, we've got a good team of realtors that we have worked with in the past that are bringing us deals if they think that it's a good deal that fits us. So there's a good referral base there that comes from realtors that we've built a good relationship with. Obviously, other homeowners that have worked with us and had a great experience. But then also just the fact that we follow up. So if we make an offer on a property, we don't just make it, and we don't get an accepted offer. We don't just ditch that property. We're circling back around in a few weeks or a month to see if it's still available, to see if it's sold yet. And I think that's a lot of people don't do that. And there's so many deals that end up coming through that they don't take our first offer, but then a year, or not a year, but a month or 2 months or 3 months down the road, just because of the fact that we followed up, we end up getting it. So those three would be probably our main sources right now.
Yeah, when that homeowner, when that pain gets agitated a little bit more, and every month that goes by, that pain is getting deeper and deeper. And that knife is getting closer and closer to the heart, where they're going to bleed all over the place if they haven't been bleeding already. Bleeding money as opposed to blood, but they're bleeding, and it's going to get to a point where they just need to make something happen.
Exactly right.
So when it comes, we're going to get into each one a little bit. I'm going to ask you some specific questions about each type of those, the marketing. But so first thing I'm going to ask is about the MLS system. So what criteria are you looking at when you're targeting homes on the MLS? So is there a price range of homes that you target? Are they in specific neighborhoods? They need to be on the MLS for a specific amount of time? Like, what are some of the main criteria that you're looking at when you're targeting homes on the MLS? Yeah,
absolutely. So price range wise, we usually do kind of anything under 300 or 350,000, kind of something like that. And that's just because it's just sort of our preference. We like to stay in that price range. We don't the way that we kind of build out our business model, we don't like going, we will go to the higher range homes, 500, 600, if there's enough margin there, but usually, those take longer to sell, and it's just a little bit bigger project, more rehab costs generally.
So just a quick interjection. What is the average home price in the areas that you're targeting? Are you sticking in the average home price, that 300, 350, that's average?
Well, no, I mean just under 350. 300 or 350 is kind of kind of our ceiling of where we're usually buying. But pretty average around here is the 150 to 250 would be, different neighborhoods would kind of average kind of in that range. And that's where we're usually buying is like 200, give or take 50 grand or something like that. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're targeting ones under 300 or 350, but you like around the $200,000 range.
We'll buy anything if it's a good deal.
Exactly.
So that's just where it ends up being most of the time is around the 200,000 range, give or take 50 grand. But that's and then we, as far as like what else we're looking for. I mean, we're not super specific to Phoenix. We'll kind of go anywhere in Phoenix. Phoenix is such a good market that we haven't really felt the need to branch out of the market yet. You know, I see a lot of people getting started in like multiple markets, and you know, sometimes I wonder if that's a good idea. Maybe we should be in other markets, but I feel like you're better off not having to relearn different markets and just focusing on one area until you really are hitting your capacity in that area. But anyway, as far as other things we're looking for, on the MLS, we'll often do, we change it up. You know, we've got probably 10 or 15 different strategies that we have written down that we're pursuing right now on the MLS. But like one of them would be, you know, what we call stale listings. So ones that probably have been listed for 150 days or more, and they're obviously still on there, right? So there's some reason that that property isn't moving. So those are great ones that we'll go after. Some of the other things that we'll do sometimes is we will be looking for properties that are maybe like 3-bed, 1-bath, but they're the square footage wise, like maybe they're 1,200 square foot or more. So square footage wise, it seems like, you know, there's a good chance that they could accommodate a second bath, or we could build one on, add some square footage, and that's oftentimes a really good value add if you add a second bath to a 3-bedroom one. Turn into a 3-2, or if it's a 4-1, or turn into a 4-2. So you know, there's all these little strategies kind of like that we just kind of are always looking for. And sometimes one strategy might only, you know, another one is in the MLS notes. Sometimes the realtors will use language like handyman special, or need investor purchase, or needs rehab, needs love and care, stuff like that. And if you kind of are searching for those little terms, and you jump on those listings the second that they hit the market, sometimes you'll find a pretty good little fixer-upper or handyman special or whatever. So there's a lot of those little niches that we kind of are trying to stay on top of with the MLS.
Okay. I didn't. What sort of margin are you looking for? You said some of them. It's always you're going after stuff that's a good deal.
Yeah.
For you, what do you consider to be a good deal, sort of a margin, purchase price to after repair value sort of scenario?
Yeah. So what I kind of the way that I kind of look at it is I think that I want to be able to see that the investor that buys it, whether that's going to be us or if we're going to wholesale it to one of our buyers, that the investor that buys it is going to double their repair costs. Is kind of what I think is a good number to shoot for. So if this property is going to take $20,000 in repair costs, then I want to make sure that there's enough room for whoever does all the repairs and does the rehab to make $20,000 once they sell it. Okay. So it's going to be $50,000, then they need to make $50,000 in profit once they sell it. Gotcha. So that's kind of how I kind of figure what's a good deal or what's not.
Okay, excellent. So Pat, that sort of takes care of the MLS space. So the next one you talk about is your direct marketing.
Yeah.
So specifically, what type of direct marketing are you doing? Is it like flyers, letters?
We mostly do yellow letters, you know, and pretty straightforward. Like so, yellow letters, for anybody who's not familiar, is you're taking like a piece of paper that looks like those like lined notebook paper. Yeah. Kind of the half size of what we use anyways, like those half size sheets, and basically, like if you were to sit down with a pen and paper and just write a note to somebody, dear, you know, Sally, my wife and I are interested in buying your home at this address, and then the address. Please give me a call if you're open to it, something like that, and then my name, my cell phone number right there, and you know, we actually do, because you know we're generally doing larger campaigns, that we actually don't do a handwritten campaign. We actually have just have it printed, and it's printed in a font that looks very convincingly handwritten, and you know, and so that's what we do currently, and it works really, really well. You get a good response, so we'll send those off to. You know, same thing with the MLS. We're always kind of trying different strategies and kind of bouncing around. That's one thing with real estate is that. And I suppose with anything, but you know, you might kind of find a little vein that of marketing that works, and then maybe it'll work for a little while, and then it kind of dries up. And maybe that's because other competitors are jumping in there, and as competitors are kind of jumping in and out. You never know what's going to be saturated and what's not. But we'll hit the foreclosure list. So people that are getting their 90-day notices that they're 90 days late on their mortgages, we use some services to pull those lists, and we'll start sending those lists. Sometimes we'll actually send out door knockers to actually be knocking on those doors and then dropping off those handwritten letters. The other list that we'll hit a lot is just out-of-state owners or non-owner occupied houses, because those are very oftentimes owned by people that are landlords that are not still happy to be landlords, right? And so we are sending them a letter just on the off chance that maybe they would love to get rid of this property that is currently rented out. Maybe they're not having a good owner experience, and we would like to take it off their hands for them. So
the letters that you're sending out, the Yellow Letter campaign, are you addressing those directly to the homeowner? You know the homeowner's name, and you're putting that right on the envelope? Are you handwriting the envelope, or?
Yeah, exactly. The envelope is handwritten ideally, or we do the printed font on the envelope right now as well. But yeah, it's written to the owner's name. We're able to pull up the owner's name on the tax records website here in most counties. You can do that. You can go to the whatever your county recorder website is, or your county assessor, and you can pull up the owner's information, and it'll have the property address, which is the property that they own. But then what you want to send these letters to is the mailing address, because the mailing address is where their property tax information gets sent to, and that's usually where they actually live, right, or a PO box or something like that. So we're trying to find people where the mailing address is different than the property address. Because we want to find people that are not actually living in the property, meaning that that's either probably a vacation property or a rental property, so we're sending it to their actually mailing address that is listed on the tax records.
Right. So it sounds like there's a lot of work that goes into the research and the comparison, and just the MLS stuff. Do you have a team that is doing it? Obviously, it's more than just you and your wife. You're hitting some of these larger numbers, which we'll talk about in a little while. So do you have a team that's just pulling that information, comparing the information, figuring out which ones to send marketing to, which ones not?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So I have a team, and we have kind of actually sort of a couple different businesses, because I have a couple different partners that we pursue different strategies together. I have one partner that I do my fix and flips with. I have another partner that we're building some automated marketing software together, and then we've got, it's my wife and I, and then it's our assistant that is basically a full-time assistant, and she's actually starting to do a lot of some of the letter writing and some of the door knocking and stuff. And then we have other people locally that we kind of work with depending on what our needs are. But between those few partners and my wife and I and our assistant, that's most of our team, though.
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about the messaging you either put in the letters or the door knockers? So what pain do you add? Because when it comes to marketing, it's all about the message.
Sure.
Typically, it's about the pain, fear, frustration, or the ambition of your target market. So are you addressing a specific pain that you're trying to agitate? And what action are you asking them to take? Call you, go to a website, text you, sort of. Can you talk a little bit about the messaging and the action?
Absolutely, yeah. So, the messaging is meant to be very. The messaging generally in our letters is meant to be very sort of casual, and not necessarily intimate, but I guess just very casual. It should be it should feel like it's a letter that was sent from somebody just down the road. They noticed that your house was sale or was sent to you from a neighbor down the road, not sent to you from some big company. Okay. It's not. There's no logos on it, and I don't put a website on it or anything like that for these particular letters, because I don't want it to feel like it's coming from a company. I want it to feel like it's coming from just Pat and Emily, these people down the road that are interested in buying your house, sort of thing. And the response that the letter is supposed to trigger is really just we try to write the letters to be very simple. There's not really much sales copy per se in it. because all we're trying to do is get them intrigued enough to just make a phone call. If they are in a situation where they are interested in buying or selling their house, or even interested in considering it, then we just want to see, basically, if they're willing to pick up that phone call or pick up that phone and dial you, then that probably is an indicator there's some level of legitimate interest there. We probably could get, if we did more sales copy and more marketing kind of in the letters, there's a good chance you could get more people calling. But in some ways, I kind of like that you always want, ideally, I think it's good to have your marketing do some of the screening for you. Right. So I want only legitimate leads to call, that call us, because we are going to follow up with everybody. And I'd rather not just the curious lookers. I'd like to minimize those whenever possible.
So who's handling the phone calls?
So most of the phone calls are handled by, actually, most of it's either myself or it's my assistant right now. Okay. Most of the phone calls end up being really quick, where it's like kind of a one that they all come into voicemail, and then so a lot of people will just kind of hang up. A lot of people, you can tell that they're not really serious that by their voicemail, that because they leave a message that says that they were just curious to see what it was about or whatever. And then you get the ones that you can kind of tell that there's something there, and those are the ones that we end up returning a phone call and following up with them.
Okay. And then who's the negotiator of the group? Is that you?
So yeah,
Mr. Sales Training.
Yeah, oftentimes, or it'll be my one of my partners as well. Okay. Particularly if it's one that we're going to buy as a fix and flip ourselves, then my partner is actually, so he handles the rehab aspect of the properties. So that's kind of an area that I have not invested the time into in terms of learning, and it's just something I'm not that interested in learning, is all the rehab costs and the construction aspect of it. So if it's something that we are probably going to buy ourselves to fix and flip, then he'll usually go out there and do kind of a little inspection of the property, and then he actually runs the crew. So it's my job to find the properties, buy it, get the funding in line, and then once we buy it, then I hand it off to him, and he handles the rehab of the whole deal.
All right, excellent.